At 03:45 in the morning, the Sea of Japan was black and silent. Two Russian submarines glided through the depths, invisible hunters in hostile waters. Only the faint hum of their systems betrayed them. Inside the Oscar II class submarine, the crew sat rigid, eyes fixed on sonar screens. They had locked onto an American formation destroyer's cruisers and what they believed was an aircraft carrier. Target markers flashed red. The order came: prepare torpedo tubes. The captain hesitated for a breath. He knew what this meant. This wasn't just another patrol. This was a spark that could ignite war. Yet once you reach this point, there's no turning back. Across the sea, inside the Combat Information Center of the USS Curtis Wilbur, things seemed routine. A standard patrol. Sonar operators listened to the quiet ocean, too quiet. Faint echoes came and went. They didn't yet know what was racing toward them. At 03:49, the Russian captain gave the command. Two massive Type 65 torpedoes surged into the sea. Each was a monster 650 millimeters across, packed with enough explosives to split a carrier in half. They cut through the darkness, silent and unstoppable. On board, the Curtis Wilbur alarm screamed, "Torpedo in the water, bearing 215. In an instant, the destroyer came alive. Engines roared. Sonar operators shouted bearings. The ship heaved hard to port. Sailors braced for impact. Chaos turned into drilled precision. But here was the fatal twist: the Russians had misidentified their target. There was no carrier, only destroyers and a slow-moving supply ship. Someone had made a catastrophic mistake. And now the world teetered on the brink of disaster.
Товарищ контролер ГТП. Произведен старт. Баллистической ракеты из шахты номер 1. Замечаний нет.
The Sea of Japan is one of the most heavily watched waters on Earth. Russians, Americans, Japanese, South Koreans all circle here like sharks in the same pool. The Oscar II led the Russian move, a relic from the Cold War but still lethal. 154 meters long, 24 Granite missiles, torpedo tubes designed for carrier-killing giants. It's nicknamed the Carrier Killer. Close by lurked a Yasen-class submarine. Sleek, modern, nearly silent, armed with Caliber cruise missiles. More advanced in sensors and stealth, but still relying on the Oscar's brute strength to strike first. On the American side, the Curtis Wilbur stood ready. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer with the Aegis combat system linking radar, sonar and weapons into one lethal brain. 96 vertical launch cells, SM-2 and SM-6 missiles. CIWS Gatling guns firing 4,500 rounds per minute, and helicopters equipped with dipping sonar and torpedoes. A floating arsenal built for survival. But nearby the weak link, the USNS supply ship. Slow, unarmed, carrying fuel and cargo. And this, thanks to rushed sonar returns, was what the Russians thought was a carrier. The torpedoes surged closer. Inside, the Curtis Wilbur tension turned to controlled fury. The Aegis brain processed data. Sonar screens glowed. Sailors prepared countermeasures. Lightweight Mk-46 torpedoes stood ready. Seahawks could launch at a moment's notice. The destroyer was armed for war, but against two 650mm giants, nothing was certain. And then deep in the Russian sub, the realization hit. Something was wrong. The sonar echoes didn't match. No turbine roar, no deck signature. Too small, too slow. Not a carrier, a supply ship. The blood drained from the captain's face. A billion-ruble mistake, and possibly the first blow of World War III. On board, the Yasin confirmation came fast. Wrong target. Panic filled the command chain. The captain barked for immediate abort. Acoustic kill signals pulsed into the deep, racing to catch the torpedoes. Seconds mattered. On the Curtis Wilbur sonar screamed fast contacts closing 1,000 yards. Officers gritted teeth. Damage control stood by. The countdown to impact was merciless. And then silence. The Russian abort signal reached its mark. The torpedoes obeyed. Propulsion shut down. The giants died mid-run, drifting to the seabed. No explosion, no impact, just vanishing echoes. For the Americans, the silence was worse than detonation. Sonar screens went blank. They didn't know the torpedoes had died. To them, this was still an active attack. Countermeasures launched. Nixie decoys streamed into the water, emitting false signals. Seahawks roared into the night sky, dipping sonar into the waves, hunting unseen predators. Far away, American command centers lit up. Satellites pivoted. P-8 patrol aircraft launched. Every ship in the region was warned. A torpedo launch, intentional or not, was enough to bring the Pacific to the brink. The Russian submarine sank into silence, lying low on the seafloor. It's called going to the mats, engines off, systems quiet, hoping to vanish. But American sonar swept wide, relentless. From their perspective, this was no accident. It was an attack. The Russian captain faced a brutal choice: surface and admit failure, or stay hidden and risk escalation. Pride clashed with survival. Finally, survival won. A communication buoy floated to the surface, sending an encrypted message: ceasefire, misidentification, no hostility intended. On board, the Curtis Wilbur officers argued. Could be a trap, could be deception. But the order came from above: hold fire, stand by, observe. Minutes later, surveillance confirmed Russian subs were pulling back slow and deliberate north toward home waters. It was the signal the Americans needed: stand down, shadow them, but do not engage. The immediate crisis was over. Diplomatic backchannels burned with activity. Washington and Moscow exchanged urgent messages. A global incident had been narrowly avoided, not because of weapons, but because someone had the courage to stop. And what does this reveal? Even the most advanced navies with satellite sensors and AI-driven systems remain vulnerable to the oldest enemy of all human error: misread sonar, faulty intel, a rushed decision. At sea, where weapons travel faster than diplomacy, even one mistake can bring nations to the edge of annihilation. Modern sailors drill endlessly, not only to fight, but to avoid fighting, to know when silence is wiser than fire, because underwater warfare is merciless, invisible, one heartbeat away from catastrophe. Sometimes the bravest act is not to strike, but to pull back. So the question remains, if you were the Russian captain that night, would you have surfaced admitting shame to prevent war? Or would you have stayed deep, gambling with history? And if you were the American commander, would you have held fire or unleashed retaliation to be sure? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown gripping, hit like, smash subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next deep dive. Stay sharp out there. The oceans are watching, and so are we.